What is it, y'all? It's your boy Aniki. How are you this week? We got MHA chapter 394 today. See people coming through. Let's get this started. Hey, Tyler's already in here. Let's go. We got people coming by today as usual. A little tired. Can't tell, so sorry if I sound a little bit, just a little tired. See, we got the 9-year anniversary of MHA. Hopefully the end, or not, I shouldn't say hopefully the end, but if it is the end, a thrilling conclusion to this final stretch. Half of Twitter ate, but fucking, oh boy. It's always somebody complaining. They're doing all right. Allergies whooping my butt lately, but family overall as a whole, we're doing good. Just a little tired. Let's see. Nothing too crazy happened this past week. Let people file in. Kind of curious to see what the results of, or if I feel like we're kind of going to recenter on MVA and the difference between Chaco floating this crowd and the way Toga used her powers. Kind of Ochako using her powers and her opportunity to uplift, whereas Toga was using it to ultimately bring the downfall of that organization. Ooh. All right, you know what? If people were angry, so Jordan, Giovanna, Cameron, Bailey, Tiger Blaster, Thomas, Joseph, Shola, Ajamobi. Ajamobi. Which one? Let me know, Shola. I'm kind of expecting for them to finally get to have that conversation because you asked for my predictions. I feel like it's all been building up towards that conversation finally actually happening. So it'd be a waste to just end it on pure combat. I could see Toga fleeing. I think that's the most likely outcome and the most reasonable one is her. Because if there's one thing that was emphasized by her not being able to use Shigaraki's power and not being able to use Dabi's power, is that her heart and her convictions aren't all the way in it. So, like, while I do like the idea of them showing their convictions, especially if people were mad about it, I think it's going to come down to Toga not being as set on being a hater as the rest of the league. But I'm going to hop on. I'm going to pull the chapter up. Chapter 394. 9th anniversary color page for the opening. Of course, make sure y'all let me know if I accidentally skip any pages because of the vid site not loading it right. Horikoshi is like, all right, now that you know what a visible girl looks like, I'm showing her all the time. Also worth noting, All Might is in this color page, but he's got his back to the class as if he's going in a separate direction than them. There's something weird about my zero gravity. What the? I don't get it myself. Whole chains of us are floating. Oh yeah? Well, what if I make a new double? And it is also floating. I don't get it myself. Ochako Uraraka versus Simko Toga. Same problem. It's just like me that other time. Like what happened when I almost was killed. Tiger, Coming Woods. Are you the real you? With these wounds, a fake would have already melted away. Man, I thought the girl's max capacity was 3 tons. These kids, I swear, they've come a hell of a long way since boot camp last year. My whole body is going cold, but what matters right now is that I want to reach out and touch that sorrow inside you. Oh, she's got a hold of the real Toga. We're still keeping that censoring going. Great job, Horikoshi. My family was poor, and my folks were always looking kind of gloomy. Let's see. The mask is off. Oh, that's perfect. The mask is off. She's no longer got the vampire mask. You got a crowd of the twice clones. My family was four, and my folks were always looking kind of gloomy. I set out to become a hero to make their lives easier and cheer them up. But as I grew, I learned that the world's full of other people, not just my parents and our home. And then I fell in love with the Izuku Midoriya. But as I grew, I learned that the world's full of other people, not just my parents and our home. And then I fell in love with the Izuku Midoriya, and now I'm trying to stop you. That's who I am, and that's why I'm here right now. Fujoshi Twitter, I'm guessing, was in shambles. What's their name? Bakadek. We're gonna keep that redacted. Let's see. Ooh, is that another slash? Let's see. So tell me what's on your mind. Your thoughts and feelings, all of it. When we see her thinking about Dabi telling her to smile. That twisted grandmother grim horror as Ochako hands her the arm. I fall in love really easily. With animals, with villains, with heroes, with boys, with girls. After all, they've all got such amazing blood pumping through them. They tell me to stop grinning, and I get so jealous. Izuku reminds me of a boy I used to like. His name was Saito. I think it's hilarious that they both wear decorative English t-shirts. But it's not like I could just ask him for his blood, because then he'd call me a freak or whatever. Then he'd think I was definitely not cute at all. And once again, we remember the origin and we see them as children. Just like you and Izuku, they'd all scold me and lecture me on the right way to be. That's why I joined the league, because with them, I could love how I needed to. The signs were always there for me, but it took me so long to notice. Time's up. Jin's blood is used up. Jin is fading away. Uraraka. Well, the thing is, I think there's something real amazing about someone who's all ragged, but trying their darndest anyway. So maybe I'm no replacement for the league, but I want you to know how special I think your smile is. I am Izuku Ochako, I love you, but am I cute? The cutest in the whole world. And the twice clones are dissolving because she managed to buy enough time. I feel like people are mad that she didn't Mina's mind control really got Ochako good. All right. Let me go ahead and get this link out, make sure the right people get in here that want to be in here, because I already know this is going to get into the a bit of the trolley discussion territory, because I've always been a fan of the Deku Gravity. Um, my personal stance is that it's one of the healthiest ships in Jump. It's built pretty much exclusively off of respect, teamwork, and equal partnership, and it doesn't revolve around the trope of having the guy save the girl all the time. So I definitely I expect that it's gonna be, if I go on Twitter right now and I type in Ochako.
Hello, hello, hello.
Let's see what I get. Hey, what up, Thomas?
Bro, I like obviously you weren't on Twitter, but the Am I Cute panel and then Uraka says the cutest in the whole world was so memed on Twitter. It's insane for the best because it'd be like, Am I cute? And Uraka just goes domain expansion.
Well, that was more of a dig at the JJK chapter leaks, but yeah, I've been seeing that a lot, and it's just been so funny. Also,
Check
hi.
check Bishop circle. Also, hey Joseph.
Oh, does somebody need the link?
No. Check what I sent you.
Oh.
I'll send the link into the stream chat for people to see how funny this is. It's great.
Oh my goodness. I think it's
I'll see if
interesting that
you.
I feel like if you expected Ochako to just beat the crap out of Toga to resolve this issue, where it stems from somebody who was constantly dealing with rejection, because every single, like, Dobby's thing ended with a form of, not quite, but a form of familial acceptance.
Mhm.
People actually being there for him. So the established precedent we have going into these final battles is there is some form of acceptance for the villain to wrap up the conflict. So even if you look at Aoyama and Kuneda, which I think a lot of people are hoping we get to actually see happen with Fat Gun, the acceptance there obviously isn't going to be for the assassin, but the acceptance instead is going to be geared towards Aoyama, who can be considered, a villain as far as society is concerned. So the acceptance there is going to be geared more around who, or like the perspective of society towards that person, and creating a form of acceptance for them specifically. I was waiting for it.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I think if you've been following for a while, you know I was going to have to be here. Oh, this was such a me chapter. Like, allow me to be a bit narcissistic. This was a very me chapter. Wow. Okay. Yada yada yada. The ship step. That wasn't even the main focus. The main focus of this chapter was, Toga and Ochako finally sort of meeting in the middle in a way that Hawks and Twice, I don't think, were really able to. Like, they tried, but that obviously ended very badly. So this is kind of a continuation of that. Toga is even, was even transformed as Twice, but now, and I like how it was done. It wasn't like she was actively just saying, "Oh, I'm going to turn good." No, Ochako basically talked to her long enough and made her feel accepted and started wearing down those walls. I think this is the only time that Talk no Jutsu has ever really worked. And even then, there's kind of this outside factor of the blood running out. So like she doesn't really have any room to rampage anymore. Not that she necessarily wants to anymore, I think. But when I think this series talks a lot about outward appearances and what is considered socially normal and socially acceptable. Like, and so what every time Toga smiled up until now, even to us, it's been framed as kind of creepy, unsettling. But once you actually discover the reasoning for that and the fact that she can't really help it, and you look past that at the person she actually is on the inside, that is that theme of acceptance, I think, that you were talking about, Anarchy. And I think that that's been a major theme toward for all of the villains is that they want to feel acceptance, they want to feel like they belong. And I think also how this relates to Shigaraki. Yes, All for One is like the is ostensibly kind of like the overarching force, the overarching evil over all this that's moving all the pieces around. But really, I consider the main antagonists of the series to be Shigaraki, Toga, and Dabi, because those are your most personal, like your most personal points of conflict. And so we've seen with Dabi now. I wouldn't say Shota really managed to save him, but he brought all the family back together. So it's again that theme of acceptance that you were talking about. With Toga, it's very straight up. I think Ochako has managed to save her. So as far as Shigaraki goes, I've always said that he was going to land somewhere in the middle, and I think this chapter further hints at that. I don't quite know how that's going to shake out, but again, I keep bringing it up. This feels very much like it's moving towards a conclusion like Akira. And what happens to the main antagonist of that series feels very much like what's going to be happening to Shigaraki at the end of this one. So, and like in Horikoshi has, I don't think he's said it outright, but once you start looking at the story, you do realize that it is largely influenced by Akira. Like it has a very similar structure. We talk about the Star Wars influences all the time, and that's still there. But another major part of that is Akira. And in Akira, spoilers for a 35-year-old series, but in Akira, in like the last stretch of the manga in the second half, it turns into this post-apocalypse type of really dismal dystopian type of setting. It is largely dystopian, but the first part, there's still functioning society. In the second part, it's a bunch of scavengers and wrecked buildings. And that's very much what we're in the middle of right now for MHA. So yeah, and I just love that Chaco's solution was not fighting. And I don't think people understand this because they think that brute force and strength is the only forms of being powerful. Ochako is now one of the most powerful students in the class. And more than that, one of the most powerful students of the powerful kids in the new generation. And she did that without really having to fight. And I think that's a really powerful, I think that's a really great way for her to really shine. And I think people need to appreciate that more. It's like it's not just the direct fights that that a character can excel at.
I think this ties in with the fact that a lot of people don't understand because usually hero series, MHA is a hero series that actually cares a lot about saving. It's kind of like how Superman cares, like Superman stories do care a lot about saving, which is how you get Superman comics, like the one that shows up on Twitter like once a month where he's talking to the girl who's about to jump off the building because her therapist was late to the appointment. Like when a series is focused on saving, at some point, some villain has to at least be a little saved.
And I think what also helps is Toga is the youngest member of the league. She's still a teenager, right?
Yep.
So it's like you can argue that that. Well, I think on the inside, all of the league are like they're shown they're kind of just kids who have been abandoned on the inside. But for her specifically, like there's always been an indication that she wants to be accepted more than anything, and that the killing spree is more a reaction to that than anything. So she was always the closest to salvation.
Yeah, Toga is a runaway child. She's not, and yes, like Dabi's a runaway, and technically you could argue Shigaraki is a runaway, but the nature is a little different here, which is where Toga just had a mental breakdown and knew that she would never get any support ever again. And she was barely getting support before that. Toya fucking snapped, almost killed his little brother, ended up having like seclusion, and then he ran away after coming home and being like, oh, nothing's different. Which, interestingly enough, I feel like if Toya had come home, I think shit would have been different. And then obviously Shigaraki killed his family and just wandered the streets instead of going to the police, because how do you explain that? But
I mean,
Toga is somebody who ran away with a family alive, active, because she had to escape for her own survival, because she just wasn't wanted there.
yeah, and I'm also seeing a lot of people say that, oh, this chapter is queer baiting, and I'm like,
oh, I saw that.
It's. I mean, there's definitely queer undertones there, though. Like, I don't think it's queer baiting. Like, you can consider the quirk therapy to be kind of analogous to gay conversion therapy, right? That's like, oh, Toga's story has always had these undertones. And I think you have to recognize Horikoshi writes for Jump, right? So it's like they're not really gonna show the story as blatantly as I think some fans would hope they would, but like it's there.
When you look
But
at a lot
also-
of these panels, like a lot of people view them as queer baiting. When you look deep, it's not.
Yeah,
Which I can
and
get that. But I feel
more-
like a lot of people on Twitter were taking these panels, not even like the ones in this
Oh,
chapter,
dude.
saying Hori is a queer baiter. He is doing all this for his own gain, which is not true at all. And I've seen a lot of people shit on Horikoshi, call him an awful writer,
it's
awful
crazy.
person. Awful.
Like it's so obvious that they don't read the series, and I'm like, you do realize that this is making it very obvious that you keep up through like a few panels you catch people post, maybe like 5 pages at most.
Oh,
and
for
then you
sure. A
just-
lot of people were admitting that as well. They were saying, I haven't read the series, but I read this chapter because I saw this, and how
I
dare
saw-
Horikoshi.
I saw somebody last week say like, I haven't even read this series, but I'm preventively never forgiving Horikoshi for not
Yeah.
getting Toga and Araki.
I saw that too.
I'm like, what?
My thing about this is that it goes back to part of the reason why people consider Deku and Ochako boring is because they don't have any conflict between each other. There's not, like, the closest thing to even the misunderstanding trope you have is the fact that they don't express to each other, right? Like, neither one of them acknowledges it. They consistently focus on the professional side of their relationship instead of because at the end of the day, they are coworkers, right? Like, they're both heroes. So for them, they've tried to center being a hero, put that first, but it's not like they don't have these moments aside or internal monologues or thought processes where they just stare at each other in awe, or you just catch them stealing glances and all this other stuff. Like the way Deku was looking at Ochako during that speech on the rooftop, man,
That boy was in love. That boy
That
was
was
in
like-
love.
shambles.
That was like a light bulb moment for him. It's like, oh my God, this great person who has always part of me has always been by my side this entire time. And like that's why, and people get mad when you point this out. Like Ochako is ultimately the one who convinced Deku to stay. Like,
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
want to
like,
believe it was Bakugo apologizing, but it's not.
It's not. He was going to leave anyway.
He literally turned right around and she grabbed his hand.
and here's the other thing. Like, I think we got to acknowledge that a lot of people who want specific things to happen just kind of they dismiss things that they are straight up shown and told, and they just kind of dismiss it because if they took it into account, like the series clearly is intending you to, then that means that their theories go up in smoke. So they just double down on saying, nah, it doesn't matter. And like another thing that's crazy to me is people say that like Deku and Ochako don't interact much. It's like, is it that they don't interact much, or is it that they don't fight a whole lot, like you were saying? Because like they're around each other all the time. Like even in casual scenes, they're just right next to each other. They're always talking. Like they're effectively best friends. And I think that's where a lot of romance, a lot of real world romance starts. Like you start as friends. And for them, like I think people, and also like if you're gonna argue, it's like, oh well, they're not important to the plot. It's like, well, no, there are several beats where they have some pretty important character moments and pretty important things establishing their relationship with one another, but you don't want to pay attention to it because again, if you acknowledge that, then that means what you hope will happen goes up in smoke. And it's just been so obvious for so long that seeing it like just kind of thrust in front of them and them not being really able to take it, it's like it's silly. It's silly nonsense at the end of the day. And I know people complain about like, oh, those toxic Bakudekas and whatnot, yada yada yada. I think at the end of the day, it's just something you're gonna look back on and laugh. Like like with Beach, like with Bleach, each rookies, I know they still complain to this day, but like most people point at them and laugh.
Like there's a certain level of, and it's awkward because I saw somebody be like, is somebody that illiterate? She's clearly separating her love from Izuku, and I'm like, no. Horikoshi did not make her finally say out loud that I am in love with this person for her to give up the love for that person. That's not what happened there.
I just I don't want to spend all the time on this because this is an amazing chapter besides all the fandom nonsense, but like it's just watching these people try to justify their stances and like they just keep coming up with diminishing returns. It's like, and it was already pretty unambiguous what was happening. And now I think I'm trying to find the words for it. It's like
it's just one of those things where look, the Roosters are coming home. Like
yeah.
We're getting to the end of the series, and it kind of reminds me of that one tweet that went viral that was like, there's no like male-dominated fandoms don't have a bunch of hand cannons and ships and blah blah blah. It's like power scaling and over obsessing over like canon stuff, and I'm like,
which is a problem in itself.
Because canon stuff allows you to like look at what is the story actually trying to be about. And I think as much as people say like fan fiction doesn't worsen the experience for them, I think it does. I think spending more time on fanfic than engaging with like canon material discussions, not centered around headcanons, but like more about like what are they actually trying to do? What do you think is the most likely based on like X, Y, and Z, will make you less happy with the material overall because you'll create a narrative for yourself filled with confirmation biases from other people who are in a specific and niche subset, and you'll decide this is, and like if as long as you trick yourself or constantly talk about how upset you are about it, even if you claim you're not, you are creating this space in your head where you're adding to like just this is just like the mental process that you're taking to inevitably set yourself up to be sad or angry or irritated or whatever.
The what could have been, essentially. Like this happened in the manga, but what if what I wanted happened? What could have been?
And instead of at that point, you start to not be able to evaluate. Like it's one thing to like read a moment and then be like, this could have happened, this could have happened, I would have liked this, and then move on. But like if you read a chapter and your thoughts on the chapter are 50% fan fiction, or 70% fanfic, 30% what actually happened in the chapter, there's a good chance that you're no longer actually engaging with the manga. And I see this every now and then where somebody says, oh, well, I just like skim the chapters, but like MHA is terrible. It's like, well, you skim, you don't actually read it. You just randomly have like what you've decided about it. So you look at it, then look for something to confirm what you want, and then you take that and then you run away. And sometimes you don't even take that away within the context it's supposed to be in. And that's effectively what we have happening here. Because like, if you didn't see Ochako being in love with Deku coming, I don't know what to tell you. And the other thing is that, which I think also has to be addressed here, is it has consistently been highlighted that Sadman Parade cannot be stopped.
No, that's why Hawks was like made twice the #1 target along with Shigaraki. Is like it's just a nightmare. It's unstoppable. And it's funny that you mentioned that stuff about like false conclusions and whatnot. This is momentous to me because for so long in like these big fandoms like the centered on shonen series, there's always hate directed at the female characters, largely because they get in the way of the yaoi ships. This is the one time I can ever remember where people have wished death on the guy character.
Yeah, like I want Deku to die, so
yeah,
this
so
ship
that the
can move
Yuri shit
forward.
can happen. I'm like, what?
It's crazy. It's
like
crazy.
this is crazy.
It's the
Like, and
equivalent of like I want Naruto to die, so Sakura and Ino can be a thing.
Like, okay, and here's one other thing I'll say before everybody else gets their turn. These people do not really like Deku or even Ochako. They just they don't really like them. Like they like their fan fiction version of them that's kind of like subservient to their wins, and it happens with these two especially because like they are the main protagonists and they are very nice and gentle people. So I think people come in and feel like, oh, we got to spice it up. And so like you see all this ridiculous stuff like, look, Bakugo is super important to Deku. Yes, that's his childhood friend. Yes, he's closer to him than anybody else. Yes, because they grew up together. But where people seem to just take it that several steps too far is they legitimately believe that the only relevant character to Deku is Bakugo. And if you believe that, you do not understand Deku. You do not understand what the story's trying to tell you. You don't even understand what the other characters are trying to do because you're so focused on this one thing coming true. I've seen people say that, like, oh, this is Deku and Bakugo's story. I'm like, look, yes, Bakugo is super important. We keep stressing that. But this is still ultimately Deku's story, and Bakugo has another part in the ensemble to play. Why do you think he's been dead for almost a year?
My
Is that
amusement, mostly.
because is that because
is it almost a year? It might be a full year by now.
No, it's like
August.
20 days off, isn't it?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I've been doing the countdown because like the account doing it just kind of stopped. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'm probably gonna stop when we reach a year because I can't be asked to just keep doing it.
I'll continue for you. I got this.
The torch is passed.
Yeah, I think this also means we talked last week that a confession was going to be coming at the end of the series. But this I think also indicates that like the goal after Ochako deals with Toga and Deku deals with Shigaraki is to just pick up their lives from where they were kind of left off before the war. Because I need people to remember that like everything has been effectively just crashed to a halt because of the war. Like the society, their school lives, everything. Ever since the war started back in 2020, these kids have barely had a chance to breathe. They took a bath and they took a nap, and that was it. It's been around the clock grinding for them. And right now, I think the goal is, as you know, they sort of come is a sort of coming of age story. I think the intent with Ochako is that you do actually get to see them come together instead of have that time skip, and they're married. No, I think you're actually going to see it because, like, it's just normally in these series, believe me, when you read more than like MHA and JJK and Naruto, and you start expanding your interests, you will start to notice that how a lot of the romance subplots are structured. When you actually read more series than like your basic bread and butter shonen, which I think is a big issue with people as well. Like they don't branch out as much as they should.
Especially for what they're after.
Yeah, like I'm gonna say this right now. If you want that affirmation, if you want a gay couple as the lead, there are two entire genres for that. It's called boys love and it's called girls love. You can check them out quite easily, and a lot of them have been licensed because of their popularity. Like if you're chasing that for a shonen series, and especially in MHA, where I'm going to be honest, is like there's not a whole lot of hints of that, even as far as like super intense rivalries go. You're going to be more satisfied reading that than this. So I think it's a question. I think it's a question of time, because I'm honestly wondering if it's not, because we know JJK is going to be extended. Like the editor came up and Gege said that his editor convinced him to make it a bit longer. I'm wondering if Black Clover and MHA are going to be the ones ending it around the same time, because the way things are lining up, there's really not a whole lot left in either of them.
When you look at the recent chapter, it's a clear indication that we are kind of barreling towards the end game.
What I
like
will
the
say
end of the
is
series.
that the Black Clover fandom is a little lucky, because when Noelle was like, I'm in love with Asta, you didn't have this happening. You didn't have
Everyone
any of
was
this.
finally,
Which-
said it.
I blame this on the fact that as much as people are always like, this trophy, like Ochako and Deku don't actually hit any of the standard shonen tropes.
Mhm.
They're not a tsundere relationship because she's not mean to Deku. She doesn't
Nor is
talk
she
about
hitting
her.
him.
She's not a tsundere. She's not a yandere. She's not trying to kill Deku and being hyper possessive either. She like has those moments of jealousy, like when she sees, May land on him and stuff like that. But she's not like Toga. So she's not a yandere. She's not a dere like Hinata, who's just like simping for the MC at all times.
I've never
Or a
heard
more
of that one
egregious
before.
version of that, because it's like lovey.
Oh, okay.
Or a more egregious version of that is like Albedo from why am I struggling to remember the name right now? Overlord. Who's like disturbingly head over heels. She's
just crazy.
Reasonably in love with him. And that's it. Like they're just two friends who fell in love. It's not some crazy story where one of them sees the other one kiss somebody and they're like, oh, I'm so upset. It's not like, excuse me, in the sixth book of Harry Potter, where Harry decided, oh, you know what? And you know what? If you complain about spoilers for the sixth book of Harry Potter, understand that shit came out like 2004, 2005. I do not want to hear it. 20 years. Where Harry is like seeing Jenny date people, and now he's like, oh shit, she getting kind of around the team. I'm jealous. I don't like that. And then they win the Quidditch Cup, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kiss her in front of everybody. This is my chick now.
Oh, dude. Harry is aggressively, almost toxically masculine in like the later books. He's a really A-type personality. You might not notice it because it's all from his point of view, so like you sympathize with him, but he's a very aggressive person when you read those books.
When you look at Deku and Uraraka's relationship, like Hori has a knack for making the kids feel like kids. So when you look at Uraraka and Deku's relationship, it's very natural, very realistic. You're never gonna have a yandere, like you never have a what's his name from Akane got killed, like Estet and Tatsumi, or is it
Esdeath?
yeah.
And
You'll
even
never
in
have
Akame
that.
get killed, Tatsumi does not end up with the main heroine, the really hot girl, or Esdeath or whatever. He ends up with kind of the tsundere character, although she is also. Well, I really like their relationship just an aside, but again, that is kind of falling under the typical a typical branch of like, oh, tsundere. There has to be some kind of bent. But Deku no Chako is just refreshingly straightforward, where it's like
Mhm.
there is never any conflict between them because it doesn't make sense for there to be real conflict. Like it's just like why would they fight?
Mhm.
You know, and I don't think you need conflict between love interests in this type of series to be interesting. When it comes to romance, you typically need some kind of conflict, unless it's slice of life, which is also nice. But MHA kind of takes after a lot of slice of life stories, so Deku no Chako they're two peas in the pod.
Mhm.
So
Just-
remind me though, after this, we've got like only I think 4 things to kind of hit. Like there's Deku versus Shigaraki, obviously. There's All Might versus All for One.
Aoyama versus Kuniida.
Yeah.
We know Sero has a big moment coming up, but I assume that's only going to be in one chapter, so that's fine.
And
And
five is
Stain. I would say Stain because we don't know what
5 is
he's
Stain,
going
6
on.
is 6 is Aizawa, Mike, and
Mhm.
Kurogiri. So
Wow, I actually
oh,
forgot
wow.
about that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh god. This is really it.
I
Jeez.
mentioned in a VC that I feel like Kaiser was there. I feel like Mike, Aizawa, and Kurogiri will go back to where it all started, where Kurogiri,
Got killed.
yes,
Mm.
which
I
would be
I
very
just
poetic.
well Horikoshi is not doing a popularity poll this year. I'm somewhat sad, but I also know that nobody was ever going to beat Bakugo. It's just I wanted Deku to get #1 at least one more time, but yeah,
It is what it is.
it is what it is. It is what it is.
Mhm. I do wanna go back to the chapter and mention like how Uraraka saving Toga was such like a big because I've seen Animate Balls Deep post the image on
Oh
Twitter and say, what
God,
the fuck is this? MHA is
yeah.
falling off. But it's always been focused on saving. Like if you've read My Hero for the longest, you know that like it isn't the type of series to go, oh, the hero's gonna massacre the villain because fuck saving. No, like, and when you look at like saving your villain, there's different like variables depending on the situation. So you'll have like the motives, the potential for change, the nature of the conflict, the timing, and the repercussions. And Uraraka and Toga fall under the potential for change because Toga always had that. And Hori made that clear. And I don't know why people are complaining. And it comes down to the raw merchants.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
I wanna say this.
Mhm.
When it comes to like My Hero and kind of like I said this earlier, and also you should never say something bad about a fellow creator, but Anime Balls Deep is not really that balls deep when it comes to story analysis.
Oh, he
Balls
thought
Deep
Deku
was
was
some of those.
evil. He thought Deku
Like-
turned evil during the Dark Hero arc.
All right,
A lot of
Mr.
people
Andrew has
did.
requested that I
Sad.
read his next super chat in the nerd voice. All right, I have to prepare myself.
Ooh.
Also to provide some context, for the shirt that Saito was wearing in the Togo's little flashback thing, sometimes Tuesday. Well, the cover page has like all the Jump characters with shirts that say every Monday, which is when Jump comes out in Japan. But when there's a holiday, it comes out on Tuesday.
Hold on.
Mhm. It's very funny. Also, did you read Andrew's super chat from before?
The
Yeah,
one
he
that
did.
said read his next
Okay.
one in the nerd voice. I'm just waiting for the next
No,
one.
the one before that, but that was
Yeah, I
a
just
while
wanna
ago,
make sure.
and he did read it.
Okay. Yes. Mina's mind control too.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
With Dabi and Shigaraki, we have to like, and I think this comes down to two is like, one, like we've already said, My Hero's about saving, but two, I think people really wanted this fight to come down to just straight up ass beating, but that's wanting something that you think will look cool over something that fits the characters. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, love it or hate it, Horikoshi's characters stay in character.
Yeah,
like when people were mad about Deku, for example, not having a super long rage moment because Muriel was talking him down, explaining like he needed to keep his cool because that was going to be the optimal play. And they were working on saving Bakugo. And people were like, oh, we should have at least got a chapter of him raging out. And I'm like, during that chapter, one of Deku's biggest weaknesses was once again emphasized, something that's been actually emphasized since Overhaul arc, which is that when he's pissed and he's like desperate, he gets really simple in his movements. This happened when Deku tried to Manchester Smash Overhaul in the forearm farm. He straight up goes, you're faster and stronger, but your moves are way more predictable. Melvin straight up goes, this one's moves get simpler when he's provoked. Once I get him upset, I'll be able to crack his spine and steal one for all. So to sit there and be like, yes, this is like the second or third time this has been brought up, but I don't give a fuck. I want to emphasize that instead is insane. Being like, yeah, fucking kill, like do this thing that will get Deku killed. That's what I'm after.
and also like I've said this before, but My Hero is actually a major critique of Japan's criminal justice system and its whole and the stigma around social acceptance and othering. If you go to Japan
feels like a criticism of Japan policies in general, really.
Yeah, like I'm not going to pretend to be like an expert on that stuff, but just as like kind of a passive observer with no skin in the game, it's very blatant once you look at it. It's why Tartarus being destroyed is actually kind of a good thing because there were tons of human rights violations going on at that place, like just awful. Like it housed a lot of terrible people. Yes, that does not mean that the solution is to subject them to continuing horrible treatment. Like this is a series that kind of shirks away from the idea that punishment is the solution. Like I know, like when you read JJK, it's established very early on. No, curses are not human. You don't feel sorry for them. They don't feel any empathy. They are not savable. Like they're monsters. They need to be exterminated. That's the goal in JJK. But in MHA, you're dealing with actual humans. It's kind of opposite. So I think Horikoshi does a good job without dipping into the Naruto kind of sappiness, which, like, look, I really like Naruto, but I do think at a couple points, the Attack no Jutsu did kind of go a little far. So, and you'll notice this chapter being the only time where Attack no Jutsu has ever worked in this series. And it's kind of, it kind of gets to that mission of acceptance that Toga has always wanted. So it's always been planned and it's always been there. With MHA, people want the brutal outcome because they feel it's more realistic. But I don't think that's true. I don't think brutality is realistic necessarily. I think what's realistic is in approaching how to save these people is that you recognize they're humans first while also acknowledging you can't erase their crimes, which has been a constant theme.
I think the biggest flaw in it'd be more realistic if people were getting murdered or they killed the villains take is that while I don't agree with Dylan Roof or Dylan Turner, whatever his name was, I believe it was Dylan Roof in the South Carolina church shooting, getting to go to Burger King on his way to fucking booking. Mass shooters often get captured alive instead of just being DOA orders.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost every mass shooter that does not kill themselves gets to go to jail. So heroes just willy-nilly murking folks is not more realistic at all.
Also, super chat for your nerdy voice.
Oh, And since I'm congested, this is really gonna go nice. I can't believe how corny MHAs become. Take me back to peak shonen when I could watch big muscly men hurting each other and meet my what?
That's wild.
Hold up. Okay. That I broke character.
Take two. Take two.
How corny MHAs become. Take me back to peak shonen when I could watch big muscly men hurting each other's meat in my mom's basement.
I love that.
Perfect. Meat in my mom's basement is a hell of a lie.
You can read JoJo for that.
The beginning of JoJo's, let's be honest.
Hey, Seth.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Woo.
So have you recovered from the Twittering that happened to you?
Oh,
Did,
no.
did Seth get jumped on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My lesson.
Wait,
Seth,
which
no
tweets?
offense, but I just steered clear of that entirely.
Yeah,
Wait,
that
which tweet?
I was not going to get involved.
was fairly minor, all things considered. But yeah, the Bakudix
Mm.
still though, didn't ruin my time. This was an innocent chapter, even from belief. And from all that happened this week, just from the reactions, unhinged, just everywhere. But like, nah, can't bring me down. Great. So no, the thing that I really liked about Deku and Uraraka's relationship, on one hand, I understand why people call it vanilla, but on the other hand, it's like, as you guys outlined, it's really not. Like, there aren't typical tropes here beyond Uraraka shy. What I really like is that they bond over their identity as heroes, and MHA's been focused on that. That's really coming through as one of its best strengths. It supports every major dramatic moment that, especially in this current part. But it's been everywhere. But now I'm just super satisfied with this chapter. It's honestly really amazing. All the themes coming together. Control. I'm satisfied. I'm not sure what to say. What you guys have already said.
Actually, I was really glad that you came in and reiterated a point that I had made earlier about the distinct lack of tropiness to their relationship. Because to me, almost every relationship you see that has like one of those tropes is actually a really unhealthy framework. And I saw, so like I did look at your Twittering and I saw somebody like, it's not about a big healthy, it's boring. Like, no, you think healthy is boring. Because this isn't underdeveloped.
And it's like, and I think people approach it with like the perspective of like, oh, the romance needs a little spice. And it's like, dear God, man, it's not a romance series. It's an action series first and foremost.
Most spice is unhealthy shit.
Oh, dude.
Like most spice is unhealthy.
It's like the whole like if Bakugo was a woman, you all wouldn't ship this. It's like no one would ship it because it's not an actual relationship. It is like a tropey relationship, and not a lot of people like that. It's clear.
People love tropes. They just don't like admitting they like tropes.
I think people also have trouble admitting, yes, there's a redemption angle, but let's be honest. One of the main reasons Bakudeku was so popular is because he was a bully, and people are kind of drawn to that very inherently unhealthy kind of stance. And I'm not saying that if you like Bakudeku, you're drawn to that. Absolutely not. But I don't think you can ignore that for a good number of people, that is the draw. Like, if you like Bakudeku, not because of the bullying, but because of the redemption, you're not the one being put under fire here. Absolutely not. Right. But if you do like it for the bullying aspect, I think that's kind of strange. That is very weird. But again, it's at the end of the day, it's like it is fiction, so it is kind of subjective. But at the same time, art reflects reality. So
no, and TLDR, we are looking at you funny. With bombastic side eye.
Yeah,
something funny.
Mhm.
and why, fortunately, it's for Shueisha, fortunately, that a lot of people that are into um like um those kinds of relationships, eh, they're drawn to this because of uncertainty. They are looking coding.
Steph, you need to get closer to your mic again.
No,
Well, that sounded good. So
Yeah, I did. Keep with that tone.
so what I was saying was that people are looking for the coding. The coding is the appeal. It's like when that is a bit, I think, the only way I know how to explain it.
They're
And
looking for the trope specifically because they like to see those dynamics played out over and over again. Like some people love the drama of the misunderstanding because. So I used to think that like when people read the smut novels, they were being like super pervy. And then when I finally like read one or two of them, I realized that a lot of those novels are actually just like a bunch of things like constantly getting in the way of getting to the action. So like, oh, they have a romantic dinner, or oh, they're set up where this could be the perfect ideal moment. Oh, they see somebody talking to someone else, and so like in the case of like Deku and Ochako, what they would want is for Ochako to be deliberately planning to tell Deku how she feels before the door explodes and May's titties end up in his face. That's how they would want that to be if there was going to be this romantic thing. And that's the weird thing, right? Like, why do you want the character? Like, they want the characters to suffer for their love before they have it. And you don't always have to go through that. In fact, most people who end up in happy relationships will probably tell you, you know, I thought that I had to go through X, Y, and Z to make it happen. But the best relationships are like when you start off with good shit, like you're gonna go through bad moments, but the best relationships don't start off with a bunch of bullshit. If your relationship starts with a bunch of bullshit, you should probably leave it.
Like, okay, like the first page of the series is literally Bakugo beating the shit out of Deku. Like, so I don't know, like I don't know where that kind of, I don't know where you kind of go from there, as like it's very weird to me, personally speaking, but whatever.
I'm actually waiting for that first page to be referenced again. That is actually one of the few things from chapter 1 that Horikoshi has not really repeated. The whole then not born equal thing, and then the first and last. Like that's not he's. I know he didn't throw that in there purposelessly. Like that's there for a reason. I'm fairly certain I know where he's going. But
it's definitely coming back up during the climax of Deku and Shigaraki.
That it has to be, I think. It does tie in really well with it. And yes, I think Bakugo evolves somehow to some people's chagrin, but you know what? It's gonna happen. He's being revived. So like
I mean, like what Deku says specifically, it is kind of, there's a lot of layers to it. That those first few lines of dialogue. Not all men are born equal. And that was a hard truth that he had to accept. And he said that was my first and last setback. And when you really look at the story, there have been a ton of setbacks for Deku. But maybe I always took that as meaning like, oh, well, his journey of being a hero was always kind of guaranteed. But reading it again, I'm starting to wonder if it means no, kind of a full circle kind of thing where it was the first obstacle he faced, and then it's the last obstacle he faces when he finally becomes that great hero renowned around the world. And also, can I just say, like, I don't think that anything that people has been predicting is what exactly is going to shake out, because not even this fight was quite how people predicted it was going to play out. Right? Like with Ochako. So all this talk about Deku losing one for all, that doesn't really feel feasible to me. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, it just, as the further we get to the end, the more certain I am that that's not going to happen, actually, because it just like anything that we've predicted has kind of. There are some things we predict that come true, but others that are just entirely off the mark. So I wouldn't pretend to really know.
Please don't let that happen. Please
Leah
don't.
Hey, Gianna.
Hey man,
Hey,
Yo,
I'm convinced anyone that wants that kind of hates Deku, which like this is his story. I want to see him be a great hero.
I mean, this chapter really pointed out that a lot of people hate Deku, so you know, that's
a lot of people do not want Deku necessarily happy. They want themselves happy.
Mhm.
I think most endings regarding Deku and Shigaraki can be spun in a way that connects with the narrative threads. Not necessarily the best way, but I think the way Horikoshi writes, he always ties it to something. So I don't think anything from this point can really be completely bad. But you're right. I do want to see Deku, that future vision that Endeavor had. I like to see that for Deku.
Yes.
He deserves, even if the world won't give it to him.
I have a theory that Deku and Ochako are actually going to start a joint hero agency together. Because like even in that photo, they're kind of side by side. So that would make sense.
Be very adorable.
Honestly, I am starting to believe what Tyler just said though. Deku losing that arm after what we just saw with Ochako. I mean, he's probably not
it's
getting out of
gonna
that
be
fight unscathed.
like
Mhm.
we have
Every
seen
single person
like,
has suffered. through
we have
these
seen
conflicts.
3 panels of Deku versus Shigaraki right now, and it is intense, and that is absolutely going to get even worse. Believe me.
Which I guess we should address the Ochako's body going cold because I don't think she's dying here. In fact, I think it's important to notice that like the mask fell off
True.
as Toga was floating up, and it looks like it wasn't damaged. So
I've just seen somebody theorize that that's similar to Twice making a copy of Toga to give her a blood transfusion. That Toga is going to transform into Ochako and give her a blood transfusion.
that's exactly where I was going with this.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter too. I actually really like that idea.
I didn't see it on Twitter, but that's where I was going with this because that's
Oh yeah. I mean, it was kind of it's an easy connection to make.
Yes.
because it gives her something. So then people who want her to like possibly die or whatever, or be in critical condition or whatever like that, they still get to see Toga possibly kick the bucket in exchange for maintaining Ochako's life. She's if you remember, she said during NBA, she felt closer to the people that she loved when she was almost dead than any other point. So she may see that as a way for her to become Ochako without having to kill the one person who was actually there for her.
It's like, you saved me and now you're dead because I stabbed you. Like, no, that we're not. She's gonna be fine. So I admit that when they go small, for when Horikoshi does this thing where they're children, it's like there's probably a tiny hole, a tiny stab wound in tiny Uraraka, and now I'm sad.
When you look at this chapter specifically, when it connects to like Toga being quote unquote saved right now, the Twice phones are turning dust, and I was thinking a lot about it because I had this chapter on my mind, and it really relates to the whole dust to dust, ashes to ashes, and how it means like the death of someone. Like it serves as a reminder that not all life is finite, and that kind of leads into Twice and how this is the last time we'll see her or him, and also the death of Himiko Toga, the villain. So while Uraraka is passed out and on the verge of death, like Toga's not going to allow that. Like she finally has someone who could see who she really is aside from the League. So why would she let that happen? It'd be very beautiful to see her actually, turn into Uraraka, which I absolutely adore. I love that idea. Give me it.
And I think their conflict has always been a little different because even back during the war, like POW, Toga always wanted that conversation. Like she did think of Ochako as a friend until that moment, until she was kind of spurned and turned away, and she's like, "Well, you're just like the rest."
Yep.
And then here, Ochako was kind of rectifying that mistake where she realized she did treat Toga just like everybody else treated her, and that in order to really stop her rampage effectively without anybody else getting hurt, she was going to have to actually see her for who she was instead of like just avert her eyes. Like
Mhm.
I'm I think of the villains, I think Spinner, Compress, Toga are gonna live. AFO is 120% dying. You cannot keep a story, like you can close out the story without him being gone. But also Twice is dead. Dabi and Shigaraki. I think Dabi is going to die in a hospital bed, kind of like Night Eye. And I think Shigaraki. I went over this before, but I also think he's gonna. I think he's gonna die as Tenko, and it's gonna be this kind of ambiguous kind of ending for him. But I'm not sure. I'm just not sure.
I
Here's a
definitely
question I
think
want to
that
give to you guys. Do you think the cover for this volume is going to be Toto Fam or Ochako solo?
I think it'll be like the both situations, like in a perfect world. But I would love it to be Uraraka and Toga.
let me see what the chapter
feel
count is
like-
looking like so I can see where they land because I kind of don't want them to be in the same volume on this.
That they are going to be in the same volume, I think.
Mhm.
Honestly, I'd be down for like a Ida Shoto cover, something like that.
I
When's the
just
last
feel
time
like.
Ida got a cover.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Ochako has never really had a cover. Like the closest she got was to volume 33, and that was kind of like the Deku Squad cover, you know.
Mhm.
So I think
Ye-
with time running out, I think he should give her a due and do it Ochako solo because Toga got a cover, and I feel like okay, since Ochako is a kind of foil, you should give her one as well. But I don't know. It'll be a good cover either way. But
It's going to
I'd
be a
be- I'd be
Toto
down for
fan
that.
cover because the cover is always based on the early chapters. So just as an example, so I don't look like I'm talking out of my ass. 36 is Two Flash Fires. Two Flash Fires is the chapter where Shoto and Dabi are fighting. So even though regarding the enemy extras, wounded hero, burning bright and true, like all those others, guy who's made some progress, there's a lot of Bakugo versus All For One stuff in that volume. Doesn't matter. That's not the cover. It's the Toto Fam cover or Toya versus Shoto cover. Look at chapter or volume 37, Those Who Defend, Those Who Violate. Starts off with Bakugo being laid on the ground. You see the Deku there. First chapter of volume 38, which is the Tonga cover, is Chaotic Confusion, which is the one where I believe that's one of the, I think that's the Return of the Saturdays Parade. Even if you look at volume 34, In the Nick of Time, a Big Time Maverick from the West, Deku versus Class A is the second chapter. Friend is the first chapter. So when Bakugo shows up for chapter 30 or volume 33. The only real exception I would say is probably 32, which is the Nagant cover, and otherwise it's usually pretty centered around stuff at the beginning of the volume.
well, volume 31 was actually kind of towards the end. Like it's Deku and All Might, and that stuff happens towards the end, but that is also a bit of a different volume.
Yeah.
286. I'm sorry, volume 30. I think was also it happened in the middle. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna hold out. I'm gonna hold on to a little bit of hopium that is Ochako since we're so close to the end.
Me personally, if I wanted like a Uraraka and Toga cover and I wanted Uraraka to be the focus, I would follow the volume 29, which is Katsuki Bakugo Rising, which I would love to see. But I don't know. That's just me.
I don't know, I would like her to have like Ochako to be the focus of the volume cover for this, but
Mhm.
I feel like Corey likes to typically go for the early part. But I mean, we can get it. It's just I see a lot more volumes that the early section of the volume is the cover than the towards the end.
Yeah.
But that's
I
because I
know.
don't. You guys know me. I like I'll entertain the cool shit, but I was the guy who was like, don't expect a League of Villains intro for season 5.
Isn't
I was that guy. So like
we
you
have
know,
8 chapters that haven't been put into a Tenkabon, right? So like
And
half of
yeah,
that is like Shoto, Todoroki with the family, and then you have Uraraka and Toga. So I could see like the latter half getting it. Like it could go either way. And
I
especially
think
because we had a Toga volume last time.
I think yeah, volume 38 is the one that kind of makes me think that it could be Ochako because he might do a kind of combined volume thing where they're kind of looking at each other, you know?
Mhm.
that would be nice.
Yeah. But
'Cause that's
and
what we got
again,
with One Piece volumes like 99, 100, and 101 are all technically one big spread if you put them next to each other. So I would like to see
Yeah.
something like that.
so this is really it, man. Like I think yeah, like like most of the major subplots are done. And basically the manga is back to kind of where it started, where it was Deku and All Might. Those are like the most major fights left. So
I also believe that it's time to bring up how I feel like the series is ending and how the final chapter is probably going to be Deku and Ochako. One, it's going to be another culture festival is what I think is like the final chapter is going to be like the band rocking out. And you're going to have Deku and Ochako on a Ferris wheel holding their crepes.
Yes,
on
sir.
a date.
I need
I'm
that.
holding
I
a
out
need
date.
for
that.
it. I'm holding out for
I
it. And
desire
then,
it.
so then the final volume cover it could be those two on a Ferris wheel.
No, you know what would be better? The Ferris wheel, the festival at the beach.
Yep.
Oh, dude, everybody comes out for barbecue.
Yes.
Jiro forms her band on stage. They're rocking out.
Mm-hmm.
Bakugo has a drummer solo where he's like, I lived, bitch. I
Yes.
lived. Okay. I know it's fun to hate on Bakugo, but look, he is a cool character, right? He's pretty
Bakugo's one
cool
of my
character.
favorite.
Yeah,
Like-
it's like so. I think him at the end, just like alive and kicking, that's going to be very satisfying to see. Like just being his usual caustic self, but at the same time, like everybody, like he's actually become friends with everybody. So, because
I think
remember,
that's-
for a long time, most of the class did not like Bakugo.
No,
They did-
they made fun of him all the time.
Yeah, they hated that guy. But
He-
after
this-
he got kidnapped, and then and then there was, and then he got taken down quite a few pegs throughout like their first few months. Then we did the remedial course. Then you start to notice people come around to him because like he's not he had a good humbling. So
Also, I'll say that I think Bakugo stands are why Bakugo is so fun to make fun of, and it has less to do with the actual character. Because I think the actual character most people enjoy. It's just the way Bakugo is discussed tends to irritate people.
he kind of dominates discussion no matter what because like he is one of the most popular characters in the series. Like let's
He's
face
one
it,
of the
like,
well-developed characters too, so it's
Yeah,
easy
like-
to talk about him.
like he's popular. He's also controversial. He's an important part to the plot. Whatever you think of how he's been handled, he has so many different interactions with different important characters. Like he's a vital part to the series. So
Yep.
whether or not you can stand his fans, like you can't deny that Bakugo has added a fair bit to the franchise.
Yes.
So yeah. So how much do you guys think is left though? Because
I
like
was gonna ask that, like, because
I
I was
think-
asked by someone to say like how many chapters should be like left or after the war to wrap up the characters too. So we can
So-
talk about that as well.
One, I actually think the All Might versus All for One fight is going to be longer than people expect.
Yes, for sure.
But I
I'm
don't think it's going to
expecting
be.
I'm expecting 5 or 6 chapters out of that actually.
But I don't think it's going to be long because of the current fight. I think we might get a Christmas gift from Horikoshi that is us getting to see what the fuck happened in the past.
I need it. I like it. It's been like teased to us for like the longest, and I feel like Hori has it planned. Whether we get it in the chapters or as like side material, like
Yeah,
I
it
don't
would be so
mind.
cool. Like honestly,
like
look,
look, compare
people
it to
criticize
like
MHA's fights, but I'm gonna be honest, people seem really locked in right now.
Mhm.
I think
Like,
it-
look
like
at-
people criticize MHA's fights until the anime comes up and they're upset that it didn't do it like the manga. That's my take.
me
Yeah.
personally, right? I feel like when it comes to Deku versus Shigaraki and All Might versus All for One, we've seen one example of their conflict with All Might All for One. That's Kamino. We haven't seen the past fight, but we saw the talk between All Might and All for One at the prison. We need to see that past fight so we can have like equal footing with Shigaraki and Deku.
And I still think that Agama's battle scene has to have some moving and shaking there because it's going to be crucial, in my opinion, for showcasing how we intend to handle stuff going forward. And
I agree.
the Eraser Mike
Kurogiri.
Kurogiri battlefield has to be addressed. So I'm like, we got a lot of stuff that we need to kind of check off that yes, you could just do it in the epilogue, but I think it would be better done in the moment. And I think having Deku versus Shigaraki be the true finale is going to be the main point. And Deku versus All for One picks up a substantial chunk of volume 37
Mhm.
to the extent that I would argue, because like, let's see, those who defend, those who violate.
Yeah, you have Deku versus All for One, Rev Up, One for All, a chain of events across the ages, which was where we got to see the flashback with the second user and All for One, and then you got to see Deku absolutely annihilate Shigaraki for one. And then you have his story, which is the Shoji and Spinner conflict. So it's about 1, 2, 3, 3 chapters.
Yeah, like Horikoshi wants to end it by the end of the year, I think, but I don't think he can manage. I think it's going to stretch a fair bit into 2024 because like he didn't do popularity poll because he's very intent on ending it, but between the breaks and between all of this, like I know we keep discussing length, but it's like it's hard not to when you are so close to the end. But I'm gonna be honest. I think minimum we have 30 chapters left, like bare minimum.
Yeah,
I think so too. Hey, what's up, y'all?
Hey, Tarnish.
Yes, I had time today for y'all, so I
Let's
can.
go. Blessing us with your presence. How do you feel about the chapter?
And I actually do like this chapter, so
How do you feel about it?
Well, honestly, when it came to villains getting redeemed, people always say, Dabi no, Shiggy no. But I was always in the gray area about Toga. So I was always interested to see what happened to her in the end. And I'm not minding this right now.
because ultimately,
I think she's cute. So
I mean, valid reason.
I'm
Darn it,
Hey,
it never
Impromptu.
changed, man. Hey, what's up, guys? Happy to see you all. Oh
Hey.
man,
Happy to see you too.
oh, got it. Yeah, to hear you guys. But yeah, this chapter, it was cute. That must be the title of this chapter. Cute. Yeah, man. No, mental health is important, guys. If you need some help, ask some help. For sure, guys, do it because nobody's gonna try to accept to get cut by your to get hurt and hurt cuts just to listen to you. This chapter learned me this today. If you need help, ask help. Because Toga's story is about not being understand not being not getting the opportunity to get a chance to be listened to. You know what I mean?
Never had a
Uh,
chance to be
It's
listened to.
never, yeah, never, because we people try to impose, not even try to understand the kid, really, from her parents, the program that she was put in, and all these frustrations, all this pressure that she got in her life, because we can bottle so much, as humans, we can bottle, we have a limit, and somebody with that kind of quirk, I will say, if they bottle some stuff, yeah, if the bottle can handle the liquids anymore, it spill over. The bottle is gonna the burst, and that's why she kills even her crush. It's sad. It's a tragic story. It's a tragic story. And just to see her having the chance just to let it all out, you know what I mean? Just to talk is kind of satisfying because I just want, you just want people, it doesn't mean that she was right for the things that she has done. She did horrible things, but
like there's consequences, yes, but it's a good thing
yes,
that like for once, like in this moment at least, she's
yes,
gonna get to be treated like an actual person and
yes.
not just be treated like, oh well, you're that disgusting, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Like
look at how long it took in her life to reach this point. Because Toga should be she should be 17, 18 by this
yeah,
point.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
17.
she went her whole teenage years, child years, like she almost was too far gone. Because I feel like if she was well into adulthood like Dabi, she'd
Yeah,
probably be too far gone. But
yeah, for sure.
she's a teenager, you know?
yeah, and that's important actually. Like her being younger is like because while Dobby is technically 24, he was unconscious for 3 years, so he's basically 21. I think that there's a certain like sadness to like the older you get, the harder it's going to be for you to change the path you're on. And I think that's part of like Twice was one of the oldest members of the league. I think he was 31. Anybody want to correct me on that?
Yeah, 31 exactly.
Compress was the old man. He was like late 30s.
But like they're both older. Twice was like, it doesn't matter if you offer me a way out. Like this is my life now. Like you've spent 30 years building up towards this. Like you're not magically gonna be like, yeah, you know what? I guess
Yes, bro. That is the difference between the Hawks conflict and these conflicts, because I've been looking over that stuff recently. Hawks did try somewhat to save Twice. He basically did this.
Yes, he did.
He did
Yes.
his version. Like I feel like the way he was like pressing Twice at first, because we all know how it started off. It started off crazy. He had, feathers all over Hawk Twice. Like, how is he gonna accept that? But what I think he was actually trying to do in hindsight was like subdue him. Like he was he was trying to take out any like anger he would have. He was trying to scare him, like to see what he would do with his back against the wall, to see if he would like be able to redeem him from that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he was like gonna kill him immediately. Like he was trying to scare him.
Like he didn't want to kill him. He wanted to put him in a position where Like to me, like it's like Hawks was trying to be safe and be like, look, dog, I could kill you right now, but I'm not trying to do all that. I'm trying to get you an excuse. Like he pulled because like, and I think that's one of the interesting things is that we look like a lot of people, including I think we talked about it back during the war arc and stuff. Like when he pulled up that tape recorder, it was like this is going to be like some kind of Chekhov's gun. Maybe it's going to be used for revealing Tony's identity. But no, that tape recorder was specifically so he could say, "See, Twice chose to be good."
Yeah, I think so too. I
Yes.
think because listen, y'all, because honestly, Hawks, when in the beginning, his method was not that different from this. He was like, yo, you've been unlucky. You've had an unlucky. He's like, yo, you're not a bad person originally. Like, he understood that about Twice, and he tried to reach out to him, but Twice is a grown-ass man. You know what I'm saying? Who was put in so many bad situations that he just thought that was the next one.
Like, bro was not hearing it. And like, it makes sense, right? Like, nah, I feel like you're just trying to screw me at this point. Because it looks like a situation where somebody's just trying to screw you.
Yeah, that's the thing because literally even just see from Hawks' perspective, Hawks could have been like Twice because he has all the his life with his parents and everything. You know what I mean? He comes from places he didn't have a lot of change. You know what I mean? And when you recognize somebody that is just a good guy in bad situations, you know you couldn't have been you. Trying to help that guy is what a hero should be doing. And that's what I loved about Haas at that moment because you know that he really wanted to be more than the assassin, the guy that sacrificed himself for society. It was more like he really wanted to be like a hero for once. You know what I mean? That's how like for real. Like no, that guy really want to save him, and he didn't succeed in it. It's kind of it's sad. It's just sad for that guy.
And the thing about it too is even afterwards during the press conference, Hawks literally said like, I tried to find another way besides killing, but I couldn't. He said that spoke to his lack of character. That was a mistake on his part that he couldn't find no other way to solve that situation.
So he was taught to finish the problem. to put it in a bag.
Another thing about this chapter too, and this whole thing that makes it better, like for me, is that Ochako keeps saying, I did the wrong thing before. Like, because Toga keeps bringing it up. Like, I tried to talk to you. And she's like, I know, I fucked up. But I'm here now. I'm still trying. And that's why Toga eventually gave in. Because, I mean, Ochako did say, you know, you got to deal with the consequences of your actions. But now she's like, you know what? I want to understand why you make these actions. And she's talking to a crazy person. So, you know, you gotta be a little more.
He's talking to a child, basically. And that's sort of what all of the villains somewhat are. I mean, Shonen Jump is a manga that is open to all ages and therefore has to reach children, right? So the characters are going to be somewhat simple or very impulsive to some degree. And that also makes them appealing and charming and different because, you know, grown-ass adults are boring. We all keep our emotions in check so that we don't embarrass ourselves or something. But, you know, what I agree and I really like about this conflict is that it does echo the Hawks Twice situation perfectly. It's just, it's so good. But not everyone is written to foil each other and communicate to each other properly. Like Uraraka and Toga are literally made for each other. But, you know, Hawks and Twice, they were made to fail. And but I guess going deeper than the actual mechanical relationship, it's like Hawks and Twice could not overcome that bridge of understanding.
No.
And their circumstances are very different because Ochako didn't actively violate Twice's trust in any meaningful way, right? Like Ochako had that trust placed upon her, but she wasn't aware of it. Whereas what Hawks did was hang out with this dude, become his buddy over like the course of 3 months, and then be like, surprise, motherfucker. You getting raided. Like
No, the context of it just would not allow. Like, there's no way Hawks would be able to open up about who he is. Hey,
Oh,
No.
my heart.
oh,
yeah. You want to tell us more about Hawks?
He said that stupid birdie.
he wants
Yeah,
chicken.
sure.
Is he old enough for chicken? He is not old enough.
He is not old enough for chicken.
Yo, so y'all think that next chapter opens up with Hawks looking at them in the sky, and then he drops to his knees and starts crying?
I mean, I don't know if it'll be exactly that, but I could very well see it be something along those lines.
A moment of reflection of like,
'Cause, like-
Track was able to do something that he couldn't.
I would like to see that, and I
Hey,
see them save Uraraka because the girl is bleeding out. So, like, can we get before they switch? Like, girl needs, like, you know how Bakugo got his attention. Like, okay, Uraraka, she's the heroine. Please, please.
And we'll have Toga drink twice as or Hawk's blood so that she doesn't die.
Yeah, I was about to say. So,
mhm.
so how do y'all feel about? Because y'all remember back in MVA when Toga was about to die twice, he fucking he made a clone of Toga and gave the blood to the clone, and gave the clone blood to the real body so she wouldn't die.
Mhm.
So
I expect-
Uraraka is low key about to die.
I expect Toga to give her blood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
That's what I was
Yeah.
getting. That's
Yeah,
what I
we
was
did-
getting at.
we discussed it earlier. So
At least if she dies like a hero.
Hopefully she
Yeah.
doesn't die. Hopefully.
I don't want her to die though. That's the thing.
Like, I'm not interested in Ochako dying. I'm rooting for the home girl.
I don't want neither of them to die. I don't even want Toga to die at this point.
Like, I want the home girl to succeed. I don't need her dying out here. I want her thriving.
I
Wait, so
think
I have a question for people. So
What's
so
up?
obviously Toga isn't going to die. It's clear from this chapter that she's going to be saved, rehabilitate, whatever. Dabi has been contained, he's knocked out, he's going to go to a hospital. Me personally, I feel like he's going to die there. Where do you agree with that? And what do you see Hori doing with Shiggy? Because I remember last week Seth said you want more flavors with this series. You want something new, something refreshing.
Yeah.
So how do you what do you think is going to
She's
happen?
gonna get killed by Midoriya. That will be the best. And if you get this, if you get somebody dying in the hospital, somebody who can have the chance to be rehabilitated, then the other way to save someone is by killing. That would be, and that will be the best for Shige in my eyes, because you have the one that's, the only way to save himself was by accepting some reality, that's certain stuff and dying, because dying but accepting some kind of I will say sorry to himself. I don't know, trying to pardon himself. That's also, and that is more for Dabi, and accepting that you have done bad things, but that you can still have a chance to be seen as human is for Toga. So yeah, Shigaraki, he's more like the extremist guy. You know what I mean? He's the guy that say, I'm dying trying. The only way to save that guy is by putting on a t-shirt. It's sad.
Yeah. I definitely agree that like Toga is on a complete side of the spectrum. She is the savable one, Toga. She's the one that's savable. Now the thing is that it's really just a toss up on who's the one that's gonna die, Dabi or Shiggy at this point, because either of them could be the one to die.
I used to think
He can
Spinner
both
was
die.
savable until he took that quirk from All for One, lost his mind, and
committed a war crime.
we got to really see how close he was to Shiggy, and how important it was for him to like ride out for him. It's a shame that like Compressed coming back was just a cameo, though. I was really hoping we'd get a little more out of that.
Me personally, I wanted not shaking. I wanted Spinner to survive but as a son of a mom who works at a hospital. I can't stand with him anymore.
As this
I
son-
gotta let him. I gotta let him get captured and either die or something because he
All
did he did awful things.
Here's how I think it might end up playing out. So I think Toga's the one that will be saved. Dobby will die, but then the message will be that like he could have or should have been saved sooner. Like they waited too long to save him or something like that. And with his injuries, he might like the only way for him to survive is some magic. Yeah, we all know it. It's some magic at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Shiggy, I really feel like Shiggy has to die just because he's not only is he too far gone, but like someone like him existing it's not gonna sit right in a lot of people's heads. He's basically like Makia in a human-sized body to the general public. Compared to someone like Toga, Shiggy, his insane strength, his quirk is way stronger, his whole body mutations. Like he has to be put down.
Dude, the body mutation. I'm wondering
Rocky.
if he's going to take a cue from like Star and Stripe and he's gonna grow to gigantic size. And like Deku is straight up fighting a kaiju battle.
That'd be cool.
Mm.
Like
Nah,
the only
I-
way to
I
do
wouldn't like that.
I just got flashbacks to that one fight in Final Fantasy 16. And Volk, I know which one. I know you know what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Me personally, right? Like the only way to deal with a Shigaraki that is currently evolving and mutating, and you can tell that it's not going to end well, is either kill him and save him that way, or like outcast him and put him in an area where he can't hurt anyone else. And I don't like that outcome because number one, that's cruel, and number two, there's nowhere to put him. Like, what they're gonna like clear out this one city and make it the Shigaraki Tomura territory.
He's on the
Final Fantasy
level.
16. I was playing through it and I kept thinking, I was like, it's kind of funny that the main villain's goal is very similar to All for One's.
Support Villain City, just Shigaraki having his own domain where people who don't fit in move to, and eventually starting his own nation.
Oh,
Maybe.
I'm not necessarily expecting that to be the ending, but that would be an interesting like subversion to kind of give him his own Genosha I believe it's Genosha.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My theory was that Deku absorbs Shigaraki into the Vestige world when they do their final Vestige encounter.
Dude, I'm still anticipating that Deck is getting New Order. He did not tease that for nothing.
Nah.
Tease that for nothing.
That's a very good theory, but I disagree.
It's coming. It's coming. I can feel it.
I think Deku's too busted with New Order.
Yes, that would be abusive even.
Unless it gets absorbed into One for All and becomes like one of the Vestige quirks, I feel like he will die if he has New Order, especially with the rules of quirks.
He just put.
No. He can absorb it into. He can't absorb it into One for All. That's kind of where I was going, but I don't know.
No, because literally the only way that
I guess it's an EOS power, but like that's so cracked.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that when you think about the story, the thing that they said is that the only way that he could, among the quirks that was crystallized in One for All, the only person that could have accepted that the kind of power was a quirkless person because he didn't have a quirk. So add a new quirk to that, a quirk that is like also above the like a kind of quirk that is super powerful. I will call it like this. He might get an overdose of quirks even. So I don't want to see that. But yeah, From where goes the story from now on? Where goes the story now? We go back to Deku, or we go to Omar versus.
I think we'll go to either Aoyama or Kurigiri.
After Uraraka's
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot that he was
Mhm.
like about to fight against one of the assassins that was. And who was with him again?
I think we need at least one more
Kunita.
chapter here, but he's with Fat Gum and Kunita.
Yeah, at
Mhm.
Troy.
Okay. Yeah.
Me personally,
That
I
might
would
be-
have it where we go one chapter or at least half a chapter with Uraraka and Toga, and then we go straight to Sero, get that out of the way, then go to Aoyama, get that out of the way, then Kurogiri, and then to All Might and versus All For One, and then Deku versus Shigaraki, and have Deku versus Shigaraki at least teased throughout the chapters. Give us what's happening currently, like a they take to Deku, and then there's like a little like panel
Right.
that shows it. Like I need it. I need crumbs. Like
Dude,
I've been
I
using
need
it
to-
for a while.
I need us to, when we go back to Deku versus Shigaraki, I need us to skip back a little bit.
Yeah, because I
need
want to see play by play.
Yeah, I need to see the play by play. But I'm a little worried that with Horikoshi's health, he might skip some of it, but I don't know.
It's the same with Aoyama versus Kunita. It's like we haven't seen it since it started. So I don't know what exactly is happening with Aoyama. Like
I feel like Deku versus Shigaraki at least has to take up a whole volume. As
oh
like,
for
it's just-
sure.
Sure. So Sero was fighting against who again? Because literally,
We don't know. People say Gashly, which I can see like one of the assassins because Seronis is cool moment. I don't know, because the last time we saw him, he had like a speech bubble that had like ... So what was he looking at? What are you clicking, Hori? What you
But I
got?
don't expect Corey to like tell us he was planning to do something with Sarah and then not give it to us. Ain't that right?
Mhm.
Ain't that right?
I mean, yeah, for the thing about it, like you feel that he's like using his last flames to write to make the manga right now. Horikoshi is like, I really hope that it's the kind of thing that he should finish the manga as soon as possible. Because I think that his health right now is really taking a real toll of making all this stuff. The way that we get the breaks and how short are the chapters too. Yeah, he should. He should do what One Piece is doing like right now. I will be more happy for him that he really takes time to rest before giving it all at once, because it's I really want to have a good ending for my rocket.
Taking that break and then just coming back and being like, so here's something stressful for you to ingest. Ain't that right, Gene?
No.
But yeah, the thing about it is like we get Horikoshi, even Tabata, even he has the same problems with his own story. Like his woman was also in the hospital, so it affected him also at work. And he has also health issues. So you get the same amount, like the same kind of print of sometimes you get some breaks, chapters of 11 pages. So yeah, I'm hoping that I forgot the name of the firma. Shonen Jump finds a way to help these writers, even in the new ones also, because they need to treat their workers in a better way, because the amount of money that they're getting from them, they should try a way to give
You
them.
just reminded me that like apparently the writer of Demon Slayer only made like 30 grand off of like the anime or the movie. Yeah, I think it was the movie.
No,
Yeah.
30 grand.
Yeah. That
That's
movie was
insulting.
like the
It
most,
grossed over 1 billion yen. I know that much.
Yes.
which 1 billion yen is only like $9 million, but still.
I mean,
Oh,
And I
only
only
doing a
know
lot of
that
heavy
because I
lifting there.
calculated Katakuri's bounty at one point. It was just, a berry is basically a yen, but still $9 million and the author only sees 30K is kind of wild.
So
Ain't that right?
Ale, not even 1 million or the billions, just 30K, even 300K, bro. It's insulting.
Ain't that right, Genie?
Just
After
insulting.
this past week and more, it's just more important just to support writers, like support your favorite author, as much as you can.
Yo, man.
Which doesn't mean buying figures, because while they do get some of the cut of the figures, like if you buy a $300 figure, look at that smile. They might get like $10 off that. So yeah, look at that baby smile. He's adorable.
Five.
But yeah, so you got to make sure you're doing stuff at least somewhat legally. If your series doesn't have a legal release, all right, rest in pepperinos, I get it. But like if you have legal access, try to make sure you're doing it just so they can get something for it. Because at the end of the day, we don't have the ability to just spend money and be like, "Yo, I want to commission a drawing from you."
I have a question for y'all, because Kaiser brought this up in the VC. Because we know Stain is somewhere, and people have been theorizing that he'll go to All Might versus All For One. But who do you think will be? Do you think the Fire Jets will arrive there? Because I've seen Kaiser mention that, and I've seen a lot of people also bring up like the Fire Jets must come back, like stars.
That would actually be a really nice twist, because they ain't doing nothing at the Shigaraki battlefield. And I feel like they're there because Star has so much respect for All Might that
They would go back them up.
Yeah,
Yes.
like just to honor her wish.
Yes.
And we know that they're all going to be court-martialed and possibly executed when they go home anyway. So I can see them being like, fuck it, we're going to ball out. Ain't that right, Genie? We balling out. Balling out.
Let's go.
Baby Titan. Do. Has my daughter watched Attack on Titan? Yes. Yes, she has.
What?
Here's another thing.
You better
The
mean
co-
the,
the
the
co-
spin-off one, not that one.
The color page. So we got
All Might
everybody
looking
kind of-
away from them?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I remember a spread like this happening for Black Clover. It was with Yami, and spoiler alert, Yami does not die. He's fine. So it was just a red herring. So with this, do we think it's an indication that All Might's gonna die, or is it another red herring? Because I'm kind of, me personally, I'm kind of leaning toward it being a red herring, because so much of All Might's storyline has been about fighting to survive and fighting to be there for Deku, that I don't know if him dying really makes sense, but I don't know.
I feel like what would have backed you up, aside from it being a red herring, is All Might looking towards him while also having his back to them. Him looking away is essentially him walking away, accepting his, the death flags, which are everywhere, and finally going out against All For One. I do get where you're coming from, where with the Black Clover spread, especially. Because we all thought Yami was going to die, like straight up, but he didn't.
It's one of those you kind of were like, oh, is this finally going down? Which, extra spoiler, I feel even less justified in William being alive after he fucking hands over the guild like that. Wow, he's so OP. All right, you're the captain.
It was,
bruh, what?
Yeah,
That's
it was kind of underwhelming, but then again, like everything about has not been like I don't like Yuno. He's probably my least favorite. of the
His
characters.
powers are cool. His
Oh,
writing is all consistently questionable.
he
at
just
best.
he's not very engaging. He doesn't feel real. He feels like kind of this cipher for Tabata to be like, okay, here's this cool, awesome guy that everybody wishes they could be. And that's not very interesting to me.
I've talked about it on the timeline before about how like Yuno would have been 100% a better character if Tabata didn't put his development in Act 1 to like the background and have him develop off screen, which is like I can see why, because obviously Asta and him are in different factions. You can't really spend too much time with the Golden Dawn or Golden Dawn without like feeling like the pacing's all over the place. But what made at the start like engaging was how positive and how caring he is towards Asta, which is a great trait. But is still a cardboard cutout at the end of the day. Like him in Act 2 was great. Like I love his dynamic with Zenon. But after that, he's just been kind of just the raw merchant with Neverland. It's cool, but like I don't buy the dynamic with him with Lucius that I do with Asta and Lucius.
And obviously, I feel like there's partially like a point to that because the story is kind of driving home the significance of Asta here. Yeah, that's right. It is, Jeannie. I see that smile. Mm-hmm. But the thing about that is that and there's multiple opportunities here, and like the biggest one that I will always consider to have been just like a big miss is when Asta's arms were cursed. Mm-hmm. I feel like spending 10, 20 chapters just zeroing in on and like giving us some adventures and even like having go on a quest, even if the Black Bulls are still going to go on their own quest, or having do something with the Black Bulls, all of that still like give him some time to actually showcase, because I feel like a lot of times we get told about progress.
Yes.
Oh, that's
absolutely. He shows
kind of my issue with him.
He shows how much he grew, and then it's kind of like the button tells us that he grew, but we don't see the growing. The only time we do see the growing is like the little tease with and Langris.
Yeah, like okay, like Black Clover fans like to say that is better than Bakugo and Megami because like he doesn't lose fights and he can hold his own. And I'm like, that doesn't make him interesting. I'm sorry, like Bakugo and Megami for their failures, for trying, they're definitely infinitely more interesting to me. Like I actually like seeing them for the most part. Whenever he shows up, I'm like, okay. And even now, it's just like now that okay, I don't want to spoil anything, but it really looks like Black Clover is about to draw to a close. Like it's just we're right there. So like and with what just happened, I'm like, some of their moments are nice where they're like supporting each other, yes, but it's like it's just kind of what it is. It's nice to see instead of actually leaving a lasting impact on me.
The most important thing to Yuno's character is the relationship that he has with Costa. And I always have liked the relationship more than I've liked the character himself. You know what I mean? The fact, the origin, and
I can't get into that because like everything with is like a lot of it is secondhand. When you see it, he is just kind of handed power up after power up. He was onto something with the whole Spade Kingdom arc and his little trajectory there, but outside of that, it's like not really doing it for me.
It's fully understandable. That's what I'm telling you is that for me the even more I think about more I'm more like thinking to myself like I don't have a big impact on, but it's just like the character himself is it's not really interesting to me. Is what Tabata did with this guy, that relationship of positive rival. Like they don't need to insult themselves every time that they see they can act like normal people and just push each other to be better. That's the kind of relationship that the idea of the relationship is interesting to me. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And even
absolutely.
you know, it's just the idea of the relationship because it is not the best. Well, it's not the best it's not the best execution. Like Tabata has always a problem with his execution through multiple stuff. But yeah, the idea I really like it because it get tomorrow maybe I don't know when the new big manga will come out. We'll have that kind of relationship with the better ideas, and I want to see that. I want to see that even for myself. I want to write it as a writer myself, you know, because
Mhm.
it is something that you don't see. They always have the story that we most of we see to make stories interesting. You have that to have they want the rivals to hate each other than to who are in a relationship, but having brothers,
Mm.
the brothers, because they're seeing themselves as brothers. As time you know, there's a thing about that. They see themselves as brothers having relationship that kind of relationship brotherly wise the rivalry, it's something that you have with your brother all the time, you know what I mean, but you don't need to
Yes.
insult your brother every time. And that was the thing that I was thinking to myself, okay, that's good. But yeah, after the all the critiques that you gave, that you all gave about Tabata,
This is
Tabata
gonna
is not the
sound
best.
weird.
Tabata, oh, I don't know how many times I was mad by reading his story. I'm just reading right now just to see the end. I just want to see the end of that.
That's fair.
This might be
That's
weird,
what.
but would it have been a nice twist if at some point Yuno left the Golden Dawn to join the Black Wolves?
I disagree. I feel
Yeah.
I
like
disagree
was
too.
never going to lead the Golden Dawn, considering
But
his
Uh,
aspiration to become the Wizard King. And I stand by it that Yuno's fights with Zenon had his best characterization in the entire series. Like this is what we should have had with Yuno throughout the
I know that
entirety
like
of the series.
Yuno's
yeah.
like aspirations in the Golden Dawn is just like a better rep, but like
Mhm.
emphasizing his bond with Asta, because I feel like that would have made it a more like, and then him like directly competing with Asta on missions constantly or giving side by side might have been like a more, or
I
even
mean,
just like
yeah,
him
I
like
can see that.
collaborating with the Black Wolves more, I think would have been
Mhm.
something that could have been done that was kind of missed.
But but the thing about Asta as a character, about Yuna as a character, um, the whole type of character he should have been, because he should have been the genius coming from the poor that that's growing in the world of rich people. You know what I mean? That was the concept. That was the concept. The idea is this, and most of the time, stories like this can be written well, and we didn't see a lot of uh his um his his stories in the Golden Dawn, because I would have loved to see that as a just to see the interaction, the fact that he's so stoic, handling people that thinking that they're always better than they are. That's typical thing in Black Clover. At the one that you're from that you have noble blood, you're thinking you're better than the next to you. And when you see somebody that's out of the norm, like Asta, most of the time these people want to crush that, want to destroy that kind of irregularity. You know, I use my French to say this word, but still. And yeah, that was as the concept of, yes, Tabata has great concepts, but he has always a problem to make a great execution. That's I'm always hating that thing. Even his power system is the same kind of problem. Great idea, great stuff, but execution always lackluster. So yeah.
I think Tabata has absolutely, like, sometimes his execution can fall flat, but
Yes.
recently the Hinokuni arc, the like Patri, the elves, like they were well done.
Mm-hmm.
A few faults, especially with like the word devil.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. Like it's always been like an uphill battle. or
Yes.
Roller Coaster with Tabata, where you get on these high highs and it's just so fun, and you really see why Black Clover is so beloved and why it's like it deserves to be in the magazine. And then Tabata kind of has this little dip, and it's really rough. Like your head snaps backwards. It's like you're about to vomit. It's very sickening. And then you get to like a nice, like slow, like a plateau on the roller coaster. Where like, okay, I can vibe with this. It's fun. That's legit how Black Clover's experience has been.
Yes.
And I agree. Like
Yes.
Has always been like the one rival in Shonen Jump that has kind of been just lackluster a lot of the times. Like you have Bakugo, Megami, even it's not Shonen Jump technically, but Kawaki is really engaging at times. You have who else would be a good contender in current Jump? I guess those two, or just
No,
Shonen in general.
Yeah,
the last.
I thought like Leopold was Asta's best.
Who?
Right.
Who?
Probably got Leo.
He's
Yeah,
making
it's-
fun of him because Tabata forgets him.
Yeah, Tabata forgets
Yes.
him. He's
Yes.
Where is he?
Okay. I thought I actually legitimately got
No,
his
you're
name
fine.
wrong.
You're fine. No,
But
because
I actually feel like he is Asta's best like rival character, and he does need to show up more often.
Tabata has been like forgetting him, and it's sad because even in the movie he is forgotten, and like it's
Yes.
sad because it comes down to the whole like because people bring up how Endeavor just outshines Shoto because like he's a great character. Endeavor is probably one of the best characters in the series in terms of writing, but Tabata has been focusing too much on Marion Leona and Frank Goliath. Not even like it's Marion Leona at the top, and it's a shame because Tabata has made it clear that the next generation will rise up against the old, and he put focus on Leopold and how he is meant to be the next like member of that family to be at the top. But we haven't seen that, and it's too late, Tabata.
And you're totally right, literally, because I even forgot about him. Because the first time that he presented Leopold, that was an interesting one. That was the quirky, the typical how do we call it, that type of character? The guy that the guy type of big guy, you know what I mean? The concept of big guy, strong, using more thinking about. He's not really somebody that's really thinking about stuff. He's just using his body, so more using his magic, and he was written in a way that he recognized, because he comes from a family that recognized people's valor. You know what I mean? Their value. So when he has to recognize that guy, if I can be better than that guy, I think it will bring me to higher heights. You know what I mean? And that kind of character is beautiful to see grow too. But yeah, like I said, great idea, great concept, but execution, yeah. Just it's just sad. It's just sad everything. Just thinking about a new character. Yeah.
Also, Cameron Bailey said in the chat, doesn't Horikoshi forget characters? And honestly, he doesn't. It's just a lot of characters that people want to see have been put too much emphasis on by the fan base because of their design and the potential that they could have had, which Hori was never going to dive into.
Dude, that drives me
I'm gonna
crazy.
just say Leo. Very few characters in My Hero have the hype that Leo has.
Yeah, exactly. It sucks.
It's
I'm trying to think. It'd be like if Shoto didn't have the Todoroki plot and just occasionally showed up. And I do use the word occasionally very loosely here.
No, it's not just that. It's like if Shoto was like set, like he's going to be the next like Todoroki like star, like he was going to surpass his father and Natsuo as Toya, and then like halfway through the series, Toya and Endeavor get too much focus on, and they become the like they take on what he's supposed to be.
You
Like,
guys,
Leona
this
is the worst thing
whole
that
this
could
whole
happen to
conversation,
now that I think about it.
this
Wait,
whole
what'd you say?
conversation is reminding me I still have to watch that Black Clover movie.
It's
I
great.
haven't watched it yet either. You're
It's
right.
very
Man.
good. It's very good.
I watched it like a quarter of it, and I thought to myself, man, you know what? I will just wait my brother to watch the movie. So I watched
Listen, it's so
That's
good.
sweet.
Tim Pool commented on it. Black Clover's back, baby.
Oh,
Black
oh
Clover's
my
back.
god. That was a funny day. That was a funny day.
It
But
really was. I'm sorry.
but the concept is interesting. Just the concept is interesting
Well, I mean,
because of the movie. That has great concept, but now I'm just I need to see the movie to see if it was well executed.
The last
Yeah.
act is amazing. I like it.
people
a
people
lot.
kept typing it up. They're like, "Oh, this is better than the MHA movies." I'm like, "Well, the MHA movies
Wow.
are pretty
It's
good,
not.
so you better be serious about that." So,
Okay.
Listen,
Okay,
great animation,
Thomas.
great music, great characterization for like the cast. The antagonist has a interesting dynamic with Asta. I'll say that.
Okay,
Mhm.
so Thomas, you're saying that it is better than the MHA movies.
No, God no, God no, hell
Well,
no.
maybe
There's not
Two
a single
Heroes.
Okay.
No, I think maybe.
I think Two Heroes is okay.
Yeah.
My opinion on MHA movies, Two Heroes, okay. It has an amazing finale that really elevates it, but for the most part, pretty okay.
Yes.
Heroes Rising, I think, is actually a really good movie, except for like the last 10 to 15 minutes, which get kind of silly. It's like, okay, whatever.
Is that the memory thing?
Yeah, that and like sharing One for All is just like, that opens up too many loopholes for me. It's like, and then I think the one that I think is really good all the way through is World Heroes Mission.
Mhm.
That's great film.
I think what like makes the
think-
Black Clover movie stand out against the MHA movies is that like Conrad is 9 has the best like deep dive out of all the like the villains in My Hero movies. Like you don't really learn anything about Wolfram. Wolfram's name isn't really mentioned at all.
Wolfram sucks.
And then you have Flecht, who has like so much potential, especially because he just, snatched Overhaul's gold, like Shigaraki took away his hands. But with Conrad in Black Clover, we actually know more about him. We sympathize with him because of his aspirations and why he's doing what he's doing, even if you don't
Yes.
agree with it.
Yeah.
Aside from that, the My Hero movies have been honestly better, but the animation in this, stellar.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to watch all of Justified season 6 before Primeval City hits on Tuesday.
That's fair.
So I don't know when I'll fit that in, but well, I guess it's not a rush. So
Okay. I have a question because it's been a long time that I watched the anime. I never since season 4. I didn't really watch the anime of My Hero Academia. Should I watch it or not?
Yeah, I would say so. Like the season 5 isn't the best. Like people shit on it and dog on it, but it had really good moments with the animation. And sometimes it kind of fell apart, but it's still enjoyable, especially with the Shirakumo episode. The last episode is stunning. Yeah, I would say I definitely watch it. Season 6 is great. Like they did Deku Black perfectly. The
Season
war
6
is consistently fun and great.
Season 6 might be the best season of the show. I
Absolutely.
know people champion season 2, but for me, season 6 has the best mix of high octane arcs. I like it. It's really go for the entire thing, on top of being very well animated. So
Okay. Because literally,
Agreed.
you know
100%.
how my favorite arc was Butcher in the season 5, so it has been. It was always difficult for me to try to watch the season 5 because I'm a like my favorite arc was in it. So when you see when I first saw some clips of it, we didn't see how the story started in like in the manga because I was so shocked by the beginning of the arc. The beginning of the arc was what still today I still remember really well how it was. How Horikoshi played with dark tones, we get the spinner dialogue, and I thought to myself, damn, what's happening? And the fact that I will maybe won't get it in the anime, I think that they skip all the the speed of dialogue and stuff. They kept it from the
Oh,
anime.
it was in the anime, just not in season 5.
Huh? It was in the anime.
They moved
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
to around
Around the midpoint of season 6.
Yeah.
yeah.
they realized they had to bring it back in, and so they did. I think it might work a bit better for certain anime only fans, people who don't keep up as well with the stuff, having it closer. But I'll have to do like a rewatch and see how I feel about that particular placement. And I still think that I think the idea that they had for season 5 might have worked because season 5, in my memory, is the only season where I can recall somebody saying that it was being worked on while the season was airing. That is the only season I remember that happening with.
Mm.
Man, it got smacked off the side of the head by COVID too. So that's
And that's my main point. Like, COVID happened during season 5, and I'm pretty sure that's the main thing that disrupted how they were going to do the whole production cycle.
Yeah, I think
which is
was
something
kinda
that people tend to forget about too.
I think they just purposely don't mention it because when you're actively trying to complain about something, you don't want to include details that make your complaint seem less reasonable.
yeah, I think a lot of them are like that. It's kind of a perfect storm where, like, I mean, we said that MVA was a very daring arc, and like it was kind of a bit controversial. So, you know, when it came
Yeah.
time for the anime, they didn't really want to lead with the villains like they did. They wanted to kind of minimize it. So, like, because remember, the marketing for the series is not really decided by Hori, it's decided by what's called a production committee. And this is Shueisha and other producers coming together and saying, hey,
This is
how are we
what'll
gonna-
make the most money for this series.
Yeah. And so it's like when they saw My Villain Academia and they got started working on season 5, like, okay, you can't lead core 2 with MVA. You're not going to do that. You need to cut that out. You need to minimize it. We're going to just find a way to not make it as major, right? Like, it's been very hero first, hero only for the marketing. Like, and by the time that arc hit, it was like 7 years they'd spent investing in that. So by the time the anime rolled around, they were like, okay, we can't do it this other way because this goes against the entire way we've been marketing this up until now. So that's why that's kind of the ugly side to like Jump stuff. Like they come in with the kind of politics and are like, okay, you can't do this. And so, yes, in a perfect world, it would have been adapted straight from the manga and it would have been in the same order. It would have been very well animated, but it had its moments, but it was definitely disappointing. I don't know if the series gets readapted in the future. They talk about a Naruto anime remake all the time. I'm just not sure.
I believe
I
that when
don't
I see it.
I think it's more likely that you would get an anime only continuation of MHA, which was kind of what Boruto started out as, if you remember. Like they started with the movie and they kind of led that into making the manga, and then the manga started 2016, I think, and the movie was 2015.
Oh, really? Oh,
It kind of sucks that like they are adapting essentially it's now a monthly series, right? So it's like
it's
just peril being peril.
I think Horikoshi wants to end MHA, and he might have that for a few years, but they're gonna keep knocking on this door and be like, "Hey, you're gonna make an MHA too?" It's like it's gonna happen. Like
It's an evergreen franchise because you have the global aspects, because all this stuff is happening in Japan, and the thing about a character like All For One with the reach that he has, and organized crime and organized court crime specifically, is you have so many avenues now with so many heroes around the world. Like, you don't even need to follow Star and Strike. You can cycle to the US, go all night stays in the US. You can do like manga about just random heroes in the US and then just have adjacent stuff. Because like Vigilantes is kind of like a litmus test for, can we get away with doing something that takes place in this universe, but is not directly tied to the series in too many meaningful ways outside of the fact that it's canon and some information overlaps.
Yeah.
And you saw like Vigilantes, while Aizawa and some of the same characters were shared, ultimately, and like you have that Aizawa flashback arc, a lot of the story is not really about those characters that are from MHA. And what's more is that because we have Skycrawler over in the US now, which you can then have as a series that centers around Skycrawler's US adventures, and have that even less centered on characters in Japan, and eventually we get like a degree of separation where you can just go around the world and see like Heroes International. You can even name the series Heroes International and just have an anthology series that just covers different countries and different stuff happening around the world. An MHA spinoff where they're adults and you just get random adventures of them running their own individual hero agencies. You can get flashbacks with the Endeavor Agency arc for other students, which is something that I'm okay with, but I think that if this was the old school era, or if Horikoshi was writing this like Naruto or something like that, we would have started the Endeavor Agency, got that bit of storyline, and then we might have segued for like 20 to 30 chapters just doing other people's shit.
Yeah, like I'd argue that MHA world building is right up there with One Piece. Actually, it's like
it is.
It's like, look, something like JJK and even Black Clover, those are like, there aren't really a whole lot of avenues to kind of explore another story in those worlds. Like once those series ends, that's probably the last you're going to see out of it, aside from like some one-shot chapters. It was the same thing with Demon Slayer, like just beating the demons. That was all there was to that story. MHA is set in a world of superheroes, and the thing with superheroes and comics is they never end. So like by proxy, like I don't think Horikoshi necessarily intended for this to be the case, but he has created a world where stories can just keep going on infinitely, unless he decides that quirks are no more aren't a thing anymore. Like that's the only way you could end things, conceivably.
Okay.
No,
That's the
like,
thing. That's the thing about it. Wait 2 seconds. Hold on 2 seconds. So yeah, that's the thing, because, like, with My Hero Academia, you can go to different. You can imagine so many stuff from different cultures. You can play so many stuff. You know what I mean? You can go to Europe. You have the situation, Europe situation. We get the EU, the EU. There's another way of living. Africa, other way of living, like China, Russia, and stuff. You know, all this stuff you can use it and make in America something beautiful of it. And I think that also Black Clover has a chance to tell a lot of stories too. And because if you see the movie, your idea might change, because My Hero Academia has also interesting stuff. Black Clover has also interesting stuff. I was getting confused about. I want to know more about the lore. Lore-wise, My Hero Academia, Black Clover has a lot of things that can happen too. But yeah, on the level of One Piece, My Hero Academia is one of the only stories that I can know that they can spin-off wise, new story wise, they can do a lot of stuff.
The thing with Black Clover though is like, I think you could feasibly stretch things out, but like at the same time, it's not quite popular enough for them to really, I think, pursue that.
Okay.
Yeah, the volumes have been going down in sales.
I know people make fun of the sales, but it sells okay. But like when Jump look at like their pillar franchises, it's no longer like, oh, the era of the big three where it was kind of keeping everything afloat. They're more so like they like to collect their very, very popular IPs and keep them in kind of reserve so they can just keep showing them out. Like Dragon Ball was never going to finish. It's just straight up. You're never going to see that end.
And it is sad. That's just sad. Some woman is just sad that something doesn't finish.
Yeah, once they've exhausted Super, they're gonna make a sequel to Z. Believe me, like, and it's not gonna be GT. It's gonna be something else. Because GT is a very specific anime canon, and now there's like 4 different timelines right now. Which I was kind of surprised by when somebody informed me. I was like, wow, this is all over the place. Naruto, like even Naruto didn't really end. Like it looked like it was going to end for a while there back in the early 2010s, but then Boruto happened, so that's going to keep going. Bleach is back, although you can argue that Bleach didn't really have a satisfying ending.
Bleach has a continuation, like technically, so like.
Yeah,
Like if Kubo has everyone stop asking him for it, he will drop it. But until that's impossible, so we're never gonna get it.
I think he might be waiting until the anime is fully finished.
I hope so, but we also have Burn the Witch that needs
that takes place in the same world, so there's probably gonna be some crossover there. I think those two story arcs are gonna cross over for sure.
And that's the thing, how it works. That's always was my question. How does Burn the Witch works? Because they call it the West Soul Society. So all the dragons. How knows?
It takes place. I'm pretty sure it takes place 2 years after the end of Bleach. But it's in London, so like obviously it's over there.
For sure. Because the Soul Society was in. From what we understood, is the Soul Society happens in Karakura was the city that we were following the characters. You know what I mean? But no, and we were always talking about the world, how things was affecting the world generally. So, but Japan was the center of it. He comes back with another story. And that was Burn the Witch, and he take witches, put them in place of what do we call them?
Inagami.
Inagami, Soul Reapers, whatever you want to call it.
Soul Reapers, whatever you want to call it. And you get now we had the hollows, we get those dragons, and the way that you're using dragons, Mentor even use them as like animals to use. I was confused by it when it was exposed at the end. It was like the west side. So I'm really confused. I don't know how you will try to link them, because it's really not a thing. Really a different thing that we get with Bleach. So yeah. But yeah, he has this. Is also the last chapter that he did for Bleach 2. We still have to see the rest of the new arc. So yeah, it might. The big three might never end. Damn, just thinking about it, the big three might never end.
The era of the big three is never over. And the Bleach volume is actually super stylish. It's like, look at this.
Oh, damn.
Like, tell me this isn't a drippy cover. Like, it looks like a classic book.
I love it. It's meant to be like
so you got
it's after the dress, right? The sleeve.
The tartan.
Yeah.
I thought that was I thought it was the volume cover.
Yeah,
that's sick.
You get nice little sleeve. I need to reread this. I haven't read it in a while, but I actually like Burn the Witch a lot.
I need to actually get into Burn the Witch.
I really like it too. The character design was so dope.
It's only one volume so far, but it's like
also because it came with it. Nice little fold out poster.
Oh,
that's sick.
Nice.
You got on the other side.
I love that.
stuff. All around good stuff. Kubo's like, to me, Kubo has, and I agree with Horikoshi in regard that Kubo probably has some of the best character designing that's come to Jen.
Yes, I can be.
Because I still believe, like, and impressed that he makes uniforms and then he makes characters look unique and established in their own, like, in uniforms.
Yes, really good. He's really talented in that regard, but in other regards too. Like I know people make fun of Bleach for not having backgrounds, but like he goes really hard on the characters.
Also,
And-
whenever we do get backgrounds, it looks gorgeous. So
That
like,
was-
Yeah.
That was a discussion point in the Ultra Analysis in the Kubo interview, where they were talking about how Kubo, which I think Horikoshi accidentally like slanders himself and is wrong in that interview when he says this, but he talks about how Kubo's character designs are so good that he doesn't need backdrops for them. And that's part of why like Horikoshi sometimes has like super elaborate backgrounds, like he's
Yes.
talking with the joint training pipes and stuff, where he felt like his characters don't have strong enough individual like frameworks and designs, which I think is ironic because of how much people obsess over the most random characters in MHA directly
Yep.
because
The
of how
character
well they
design.
are designed. But
Yeah, like Horikoshi can have just a random background character. It looks like they're the protagonist of their own series.
mhm.
If I speak,
Flex.
The whole like spot the protagonist meme is like kind of hard to do with My Hero.
yeah,
It's like you could do it with Yu-Gi-Oh! You could do that like in other series, but My Hero is kind of like, oh, Uraraka, Bakugo,
well, and
Ida.
that's my buddy Josh and I were at work talking about JoJo's once. We were just kind of like, they'd be like, we wonder where the enemy stand user is in part 3, and it's like that guy, the guy with the fucking like pigtails with bells on him and a lime green jacket with bright purple shoes and an orange knee pad.
Yo,
Oh.
man.
And his other pant leg, it's not even a full pant leg. So he's wearing half capris, half jeans. Like, that's the stand user. That guy right there sticks out like a sore
Yeah.
thumb.
Yep.
But yeah,
The stand user have the stand has a terrible sense of fashion. I can tell. Man, that should be an anime. The terrible sense of fashion make you stronger.
I mean, that's almost what Kill la Kill was.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. I feel like I feel like this is one of the most focused chapters, and we talked about it a lot. And then we segue like we always do, which I'm always fine. And I think our viewers have come to appreciate the random
Yes.
segueing that we do here. So it all works out. But I do want to start to wrap up because it's almost been 3 hours. And well, I'm fine with doing long streams. I also have other stuff to do, you guys know. So I'm gonna start going around the horn, getting final thoughts. Let's start with Seth.
hey, all right. First off, can everyone hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool. So you guys talked really well about this chapter, so I'm not sure if I have anything amazing to add, but just going through it again and seeing how Uraraka doesn't just like talk no jutsu this, she literally overcomes all of double with just her quirk. I mean, not with just her quirk powers up, obviously, but like she literally stops twice. Like that is a feat that no one else in MHA could do. It's why twice had to be killed in the first place. And I like that it's just a combination of both Uraraka's emotional maturity and willingness to reach out to help, but also the power, the physical reflects the emotional in that regard. Like the ideal, it's making the ideal reality. Like that is literally what's happening. And this was a really special chapter in the series. This is like the first time you actually see the ideals play out as there's like the saving people ideals play out in the intended way. Like Dabi was, to me, subdued appropriately because his rage was so deep seated that it kept him alive. He was living on that. You're not going to just extinguish that overnight.
even though, of course, the moment with the Todoroki family was good, because all of that needed to happen. But I'm not sure Dabi is just gonna, flip a switch. But with Toga, you actually see Uraraka engage with her insecurities and console them. And that's the ideal. That is what a hero does. And I noticed this going through, people mentioned the Sports Fest parallels. Uraraka in the Sports Fest is most notably saying, just like Deku. Here, she's not been thinking about that, and she's already hit it. That is exactly what Deku did for Todoroki. Exactly. Todoroki was all hung up on his father's, on his past with his father and what his power and identity was. And Deku said, no, you're your own person, and that's your power. And that it was enough to get Todoroki to reconsider what he was thinking about, or his own identity, I should say. And it forced him to change his perspective. And Uraraka does the same thing with Toga. Toga and Todoroki are very different characters with very different insecurities. But the point being is that Uraraka says, no, your smile is beautiful, and I am jealous of you, which is obviously something that Toga never, ever got from anyone else. I don't want to, like Uraraka said, you can't condone Toga's actions. You want to affirm children, but you want to affirm children in the things they do that are good, that you want to encourage more of. And you can't just indulge in everything. But still, like, this was the first positive affirmation that Toga got, and it was just so heartwarming to see that whole thing with the, you think I'm cute? And then just the cutest in the whole world. And that was, I've said this on Twitter, but like, Horikoshi, even though we know what's coming, he's able to deliver it in such a beautiful way, and it doesn't feel redundant either. It's a natural buildup of all the themes that come about. Like, we talk about the world building before. I think people confuse world building with geography.
They do.
That is part of it. Can you hear me?
Yes. I was just
Yes,
backing
you can
up.
hear.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was hoping I wasn't cutting out or going.
No.
But I just wanted,
Mhm.
with MHA, it's not that it's like, when the world building is the lore, and MHA builds on each previous interaction, and he was drawing from characters and arcs from all over the series with this one fight. So it's like the world building in MHA is excellent, or at least if you, insofar as you call it lore. And even if, and just because it's not a fantasy setting, it's the real world, that's still, geographical world building. We know America is in the world, and it's America, but with superheroes. We know, and all the other same with other countries too. I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy a series, a follow-up where we go international somewhat, but to me, the story is right here and what Horikoshi is writing now. So so long as Horikoshi is writing it, I will be there. But I'm not sure if I'm going to follow up on what feels like a cash grab of sorts. I already failed to get invested in Vigilantes. It does not hit the same if Horikoshi is not on the wheels. So anyway, for me, this was just an incredible chapter. I'm so happy to see Uraraka's growth and how she was able to reach Toga, and just, I'm really looking forward to now seeing what her future actually is now. Like, what kind of person will she become now that she has someone, a friend in Uraraka. So that's what I'm looking forward to most right now. So anyways, thanks for having me on as usual.
Of course. Also, Aniki, can I go next? Because I have to hop out.
Go for it.
I might as well go for it. This chapter is phenomenal. Like, it is genuinely everything I wanted from a Uraraka and Toga chapter. Like, I've said it in the channel, in the server, but just following Uraraka from the start of the series and now has been so amazing. The same with the Todoroki plotline. like seeing Uraraka embody what it means to be a hero, reaching out to someone who needs help, who like reaching out to someone who looks like they're needing saving is just like people talk about how Uraraka just, you know, she idolizes Deku too much and it takes away from her character, which it doesn't. And I just love it so much. Whether or not Toga, because I've seen people mention that maybe she just runs away, which I don't see. But if she gets the help she needs, or if she gets put into prison and she gets the help she needs there, whatever, I'm hoping it'll end up perfect, which Hori will do. I am really excited to see what's next. Aoyama needs to be focused on because we haven't seen him yet since the last time we've been to Troy. And obviously, I'm looking forward to Deku versus Shigaraki. After this conflict, I know for a fact Hori has so much cooked for this conflict, the next conflict, I mean. But yeah, overall, it's great. Also, to people who use Twitter, make sure to check your settings because Elon made it where if you have Twitter Blue, you can, that's only when you can talk to people in DMs or request. So make sure just to check that. Overall, great chapter. Make sure all of you stay safe. Grab yourself some water, eat some food, and I'm out. Also, like the stream.
All right, real quick. Sorry about that. I had to run to the door. Up next, Bonzu.
Hey guys, I hope that you had a great day. Great chapter again. Horikoshi showed us that his character, but he's always on top on this. And yeah, like I said past week, I really wanted to see how far he will take the character of Toga. And it was a beautiful chapter again today. He rewrites in a way that it makes you overwhelmed sometimes by feelings for his character, because sometimes you need it for yourself as a person. So yeah, it was really a great chapter. I can't wait to see what's happening next for the story. And yeah, take care of you. Like the stream, subscribe to Aniki, and see you. Bye.
Giorno.
Ain't got too much to say. Just Ochako Goat, best rescue hero in fiction. Another dope chapter, and thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And a good point on emphasizing rescue hero, because she rescued Toga.
Yes, sir.
Did I have you go, Joseph?
You have not yet, but I will now. So like bunch of people already said what I could have said a lot better than I could have. So I'll just say this was a great chapter. And like the art was astounding as usual. And I'm really looking forward to see what's next, because I'm just really just enjoying the ride, and I have been for a while. So
Volk?
This was a phenomenal chapter. It was a great conclusion to Ochaka's character arc. She was, she's always been she's been thinking about, okay, what happens when people need saving and need help, and she realized she was finally able to bridge that gap. That I think heroes and villains keep putting between themselves, and she found somebody who did need help and did need that aid, and now she's given it to her. So moving forward, now that she's opened up this possibility for some sort of communication, which is what the kids have all been building up towards. They have been the generation where things change for the better. Now, that doesn't mean all villains have super sad backstories or are going to need sympathy or different kinds of handling. No, sometimes there are heroes that are just going to deliver straight ass beatings, and that is still very much going to be a thing. But that does not mean that it can tip over to being a one size fits all kind of approach. And that ambiguity and that, like, in that gray area is something My Hero Academia very much strives to highlight. And this chapter does so as well, while still remaining positive. And like you said, Aniki, Ochaka's trying to be a rescue hero. she defeated Toga by rescuing her. Like that's a truly heroic feat. And I need people to understand this when they say it's like, oh well, I wish the villains had less sad backstories. It's like you still get a mix. It's called My Hero Academia. Like it tells you straight up what you're getting. They're all learning how to be ideal heroes. And yeah, I was just Horikoshi said that there was a part to this conflict that he's been waiting to draw for a long time, for years. And I think it's right at the end where Ochako tells Toga that her smile is cute, and then you see all the Twices just dissipate and evaporate. It's like her hatred and fear is melting away. So moving forward, it's a sweet moment. She's not going to ride off into sunset. Like it's just not possible. But I think finally she has found the acceptance that she always needed to validate who she is, and that's an excellent message. Love this chapter. I can't wait for next week. We're really at the end here. This is crazy, absolutely insane.
All right, and I appreciate everybody who came through. My thoughts have been echoed in the words of my peers. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves. Stay healthy. Drink